And there she is.
Hello.
A book you're reading.
Yeah, it's actually called Fight Right: How Successful Couples Turn Conflict into Connection. And it
Uh,
is amazing.
so whatever you learn, tell me. I like to hear, get the scoop on books like.
I'm still currently reading it, but in essence, it breaks down a lot of what conflict is. They did this study for I don't know how many years with several different types of couples. And they used a lot of technology. They had different therapists. They had the entire works of it, right? And they were kind of able to break it down to a science, the differences of what type of conflict style you are, whether you're one or a mixture, to what conflict is actually based upon. Sometimes it's not what we think it is. And kind of like all the nuances to conflicts. That way, couples can actually take away very practical solutions
Yeah.
to turn conflict into better opportunities for a deeper connection. So, like,
Yeah.
they have people coming in who were newlyweds, who were very early on in their relationships, all the way to couples who ended up getting divorced, like all the different things. And so they really broke it down in a way. And so I think one of the things that I learned in in definitely a clear manner
Mhm.
was the aspect of kind of seeing conflict at a deeper root, right? Sometimes you think you're talking or you're conflicting about like dishes or about housework or about all these different things, right? But they kind of break it down to the actual values underneath that. But the way that they do it is just, it's incredible.
That's interesting. So you said something about conflict styles. Like, what? I'm interested. What conflict styles did they specify?
Avoidant is one. So avoidant where, you don't really want to address conflict at all. You tend to skirt by it, kind of hide it under the rug if conflict's brought up, like you don't really do well with it, right? And then they have another one that's called validating. And validating is more like you use your words to validate like a lot of the positive traits of the other person or things that are going well. But sometimes with that one, you might also people please and
So
kind of,
this one's within conflict though.
yeah, within conflicts. And
Oh,
then
that's interesting.
the other one is more volatile. And so volatile is like you have no issues bringing up conflict. Like you're actually like ready to pounce, basically. Like, yeah, here's this, and this, and this. And so those obviously they're saying like dangers with that too. It's like they can escalate very quickly, right? And
Mhm.
so each one it's like a lot of it's learned, a lot of it is behavioral, environmental. You grow up with it, but they talk about you could be from one and you could be your partner could be another one, or you could be both the same. But it doesn't really matter necessarily which one you are, and one's not necessarily better than the others. But it's like understanding and having greater awareness of where you're starting, where your partner is, and then being able to kind of blend those together or even stretch your range to maybe adapt your style, so it's also skill based and practical based, but I'm still diving deep into it, so.
That's really interesting. I wonder what conflict style I am. So did they say anything about like can you adjust to like other conflict styles?
Mhm. Yeah, it's kind of like, at least the way that I interpret it, it's very similar to personality tests. Like, some people say you might be an introvert, you might be extrovert, you might be an ambivert, but that's kind of like your original nature. But that doesn't mean that you're stuck there. Like,
Mm.
it's skill based, experience based. So it's like if I'm more introverted, right, I could practice and learn new skills and keep going to kind of extend my range of extrovertness, I guess you would say.
Yeah,
It's the same thing in the conflict styles.
that's interesting. And then what you said they were using some kind of like technology or something like that for the study, or
Yeah, they actually had built their own AI and actually used that to kind of analyze the data. Like, I have to look more into it, but they talked about the even like the tone of voice, like the actual key, like where your pitch is on certain sentences, where you emphasize certain words, even like hooking up each couple to heart monitors to see, okay, when conflict actually starts to arise, like what does your body say? Physiological
Wow.
responses, when that triggers, and how that actually affects conflict, how that affects repair in conflict, how that affects actual resolution, and where you go from there. Like there's so many different little details that, yeah, it's crazy. They don't go into all of that in the book, but it's
Yeah,
definitely something I want to look into more.
that's interesting. Now, from this data that they gathered, were they able to make like predictions about specific like outcomes for our couples or our relationship?
Yeah, that's part of one of the actual findings that they had. Don't quote me on this, but I think it was around 80 or 90% at a certain point, like, and especially how they actually conflict, they could determine whether or not the couple would be separated within like 5 years or within 10 years. But that's a very high accuracy rate.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I think one of the most interesting facts about their study that I learned about was they said within actual conflicts, you need 5 positive experiences to 1 negative experience.
For now, this is for like a positive outcome or just as a predictor for the relationship.
From my understanding, it's kind of both. And so a negative a negative interaction could be a scoff. It could be your partner showing contempt or you showing contempt. It could be a sarcastic comment. It could be yelling. It could be so many of those like very little details that happen during conflict. And positive ones would be more like showing reassurance, like I hear you. Oh, you're right. Like good point. It could be subtle cues of like physical touch, like positive ones. It could be um, just presence or showing understanding, like actually listening to your partner, like all these different things. But they say 5 to 1 ratio. The couples that actually were able to maintain a minimum of that 5 to 1 ratio were more successful in the outcome, at least whether within that resolution and repair or for the long term. And outside of conflict, that ratio actually needs to be 20 to 1, they found. So 20 positive experiences to 1 negative experience.
Really? Outside of conflict.
Yeah. So it's
That's,
different within and outside of that.
it's interesting because I always tell people, like, it's just the way I think, like, and I think in terms of just things that I've learned in terms of like energetic uh, effect on the body or the energy field of people. It's like I've always told people, this may sound weird, but I always tell people, even in your relationship, you should approach it with some form of strategy. That may sound weird, where it's like you should be mindful of how many like negative interactions that you create inside your relationship. Because whether that person is consciously or unconsciously aware of it, like the unconscious and the conscious mind is always recording what's happening. And if you're building up all these negative or traumatic, things, like that energy just doesn't dissipate and go nowhere. Like it's always there. That makes sense to me. I love it when, I see, science-based things that kind of support kind of what I've seen in my own life too. Where it's just like, oh, that's interesting. 20 positives to one negative.
Yeah, I think, even when I was reading that, it kind of reminded me of two things. So, I know you've done pranic healing. And so I remember there was a workshop that I did with Master Co for pranic healing. And he was kind of using a certain technique to kind of like erase the emotional charge of negative memories and
Mm,
then being able to replace them with a positive image. And so that having an effect on your mind, on your energy, on your entire well-being, right? And so it kind of reminded me of that. And then it also reminded me of the music enhanced heart meditation. So, you know, how you kind of take people back into their loving memories and you're
Yeah,
building all the love and you're cultivating it. And so
yeah,
it's just interesting being able to see similar end destinations, but different approaches, kind of reaching the same thing, but thinking about how that actually affects us on a day-to-day basis, right? Consciously or unconsciously, like what you're saying.
yeah. Even not in meditation, even just taking the time to intentionally guide your mind back through uh, positive emotions or feelings or memory, like I think is very positive because it's so easy to be caught in the negative loop. So you're even when certain negatives are happening, you're sometimes you can essentially get caught in a negative loop where you're repeating it just in the mind, and so that has an effect as well.
For sure. And I think even if we think about today's world, you know, there's so many opportunities for both negative and positive, like to actually occur in the environment and impact us, you know. So how often are we actually cultivating that level of intentional mindfulness and positivity like within our own lives?
That's true. That's true. That's powerful. I like
When
that
you
one. I want to read that book.
Yeah, it's really good. I definitely want to do a lot more research into the Gottman Institute, but I've heard them for years and I never dove in. And now that I'm actually diving deep, I'm like, wow, this book is great.
So, like, has it changed any of your? Do you think it'll change your approach in terms of conflict or
For
how
sure.
you
For sure. I
like
mean,
how?
I'm still reading the book, but it's, you know, some of these things looking back have been, it seems almost like common sense. Like, you know, if you've been in a lot of relationships, you've gone through all the fights, like you've tried to make it better. Like, you know, you're constantly trying to do as best you can and the work in it, right? And so when I'm reading the book, I'm looking at it like, oh, that makes sense. Like, okay, I can see how that could go. And so it's actually made it a lot more clear and concise and defined for me in a way that I can actually look back, not just in my current relationship, but my previous relationships, whether they were romantic or not, and
Yeah,
actually come from a better place. You know, one of my superpowers that I wanted to have as a little girl was communicate in any language. And for me as a kid, I was like, you know, if I could communicate in any language, go to any country, talk to anybody, like I don't think that we would have as much conflict or discourse, or you know, it's okay for disagreements to happen, but
yeah,
you know, to the point where it escalates into nations conflicting with each other. You know, as a kid, I believed if you could communicate, then a lot of things would resolve. As I
yeah,
grew older, even now, understanding how far breaks down. It's not just the language that you speak. It's also your body language, right? It's also the tone. It's also the words that you use, the cadence, the emotion behind it, the internal state where you're coming from, like what your intention is. You know, even in Buddhism, where I've only learned a little bit about it. Like you would probably be able to speak more about it, but even the how they have like right intention, right
yeah,
view, right speech, right action. You know,
yeah.
so all of those, to me, the more that I dive into pieces like this, it just shows me a wider range of what communication actually means and the impact it can actually have. Whether you're on an individual level in a romantic relationship, or it's in business, or any, like even with strangers, anything. And so I think it's just a fascinating world to dive deeper into.
That's something too that interests me. It's like not only like the hidden non-verbal communication that happens like in body language and just face gestures or tone of voice. It's not necessarily even the words that you're saying sometimes. It's the tone. It's all these little things that add up. It's kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think to the point where it's like for me, I believe even at an energetic level, even beyond words or like even when you see, have you ever felt anything when a person comes into a room and you already feel like a certain type of energy?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I believe in that. Your energy feels almost interacting with people, so you can feel the energy between them.
For sure. Not even on conscious level, like you already pick it up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's powerful, powerful. Like or just like I've played with this sometimes, just changing the tone of saying things and seeing the effect of it. And that's
Yeah.
very, very interesting. But this was good. This was good. I enjoyed our chat.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
No,
Yeah, definitely. For those who are hopping on, we're doing these live style podcast kind of talks, very short, brief talks, but being able to dive deeper into them, even bringing other people on to actually have more dialogue, essentially, like to bridge more discussion, more awareness, more understanding, and also every other week, the second and fourth Sundays of each month, we're actually going to host live meditations. Jamar will be guiding them, and so those are more of a heart-based practice to cultivate love, compassion, and unity for the world. And we will be dedicating the merit from each meditation to actual global peace. With everything that, especially nowadays, is going on, we
even
think it's more important to have more and more people cultivating that in the world and to actually send that frequency, that energy, the prayers and. Into the world. So we hope that you will join us there.
definitely, definitely. Join the newsletter. The links in the bio.
Yes, and if you have any desires for specific topics to be addressed, please send us a message as well. We'd love to dive deeper into those too.
Awesome, awesome. It was great. Thank you guys for joining us as well. Thank you, Aaron, for joining this week.
For sure. Thank you so much. Nice talking to you.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone.